I sat frozen in the parking lot of the Fairmont Hotel, unable to move. My hands were locked around the steering wheel, gripping it so hard my knuckles lost all color. What I saw through that third-floor window would stay with me for the rest of my life. But I'm rushing the story. To understand how this nightmare truly began, I need to take you back, because the signs were there long before that moment. I simply chose not to see them. My name is Michael Reynolds. I'm 63 years old, and I believed I had lived long enough to recognize danger when it appeared right in front of me. I was mistaken. Completely. And if it hadn't been for my granddaughter Emily, I wouldn't be alive to tell this story now. It all started on a Tuesday morning in late October. One of those crisp fall days that makes Vancouver look impossibly beautiful. The leaves had turned shades of gold and deep red, and the air carried that familiar scent that always reminded me of fresh beginnings and second chances. I was driving my wife, Helen, to the airport. She said she was leaving for a wellness retreat in Kelowna. She'd been talking about it for weeks, an exclusive spa where she'd spend 5 days being pampered, practicing yoga, and finding herself. Helen was 60, but she still looked remarkable. I had always felt proud to call her my wife. "Don't forget to water my orchids," she said as we pulled up to the departures terminal. She was scrolling through her phone, barely acknowledging me. That should have been the first warning. But hindsight has a way of making everything painfully clear. I said, leaning over to kiss her goodbye. At the last second, she turned her head, and my lips brushed against her hair instead. "Have a wonderful time," I told her. "You deserve it." She murmured, already opening the car door. She pulled her expensive leather suitcase from the back seat, the one ID bought her for Christmas the year before, and wheeled it toward the terminal entrance. She never looked back. Not once. Not even a small wave. That was when I heard it. Grandpa, the voice was soft, barely louder than a whisper. I had almost forgotten Emily was sitting in the back seat. My 12-year-old granddaughter had been staying with us for the past 2 weeks while her parents, my daughter Laura in particular, handled a work emergency. Laura was a surgeon, and whenever she was called in for extended emergency cases, Emily stayed with Helen and me. I loved having her around. At least, I thought we both did. "What is it, sweetheart?" I asked, glancing at her through the rearview mirror. Emily's face was pale, her dark eyes wide with something that immediately tightened my chest. Fear. Her hands were clenched together in her lap, fingers pressed so tightly they had gone white. Can we not go home right now?" she asked. Her voice broke on the last word. I turned in my seat to face her. "Not go home? What's wrong, Emily? Are you feeling sick?" She shook her head quickly, her ponytail swaying. "No. It's not that. Grandpa, I heard something last night. And I'm scared." My heart clenched. Emily was not the kind of child who exaggerated or sought attention. She was quiet, observant, the kind of kid who noticed everything but spoke only when it mattered. Laura used to say Emily had the soul of an old woman trapped in a child's body. When Emily said she was scared, I listened. "What did you hear?" I asked gently. She looked down at her hands, then back up at me. Tears filled her eyes. "I heard Grandma Helen on the phone. It was late, after you went to bed. I got up to get some water, and I heard her voice coming from the study. She didn't know I was there." A cold sensation began spreading through my chest. What was she saying? "She was talking about money," Emily said. "A lot of money." Her voice dropped to almost nothing. She said, "Once he's gone, it'll all be mine. The house. The savings. The life insurance. Everything." It felt like someone had punched me straight in the stomach. And then, Emily continued, tears slipping down her cheeks, she said something about making it look natural. That no one would ever suspect anything. Emily, I said quietly, are you absolutely sure that's what you heard? She nodded, crying now. Yes, Grandpa. I'm sure. And she laughed. Eve never heard her laugh like that before. And then she said, the old fool won't know what hit him. She swallowed hard. Grandpa, I think she was talking about you. I think Grandma Helen wants to hurt you. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. My wife of 35 years, the woman I had built a life with, trusted with everything, no, it couldn't be true. Emily had to be mistaken. She was only 12. Maybe she misunderstood. Maybe Helen was watching a crime show. I tried to convince myself it was all some terrible misunderstanding. But even as I searched for excuses, something clicked. The small details I had ignored over the past few months came rushing back. Helen's sudden interest in my life insurance policy. The specific questions about payouts. The way she pushed me to update my will and put everything in her name. The vitamins she insisted I take, pills that left me dizzy and nauseous. The emotional distance. The lack of affection. And then there was the retreat itself. Helen had always hated spas. She used to call them a waste of money, saying she preferred gardening and long walks to lying on a table being rubbed by strangers. So when had that changed? Why was she so determined to go to this specific resort? I looked at Emily's terrified face and made my decision. Buckle up, sweetheart, I said. We're not going home. Relief washed over her immediately. Thank you, Grandpa. Thank you for believing me. I pulled away from the airport, my mind racing. Where could we go? What were we supposed to do? Call the police and tell them what, that my granddaughter overheard a suspicious phone call. They'd laugh me right out of the station. No. I needed proof. I needed the truth. And then I remembered something my late father had given me years ago, pressed into my hand at his funeral inside a sealed envelope. I had been 28 at the time. He was dying of lung cancer and had barely made it through the service, wheezing, his face gray and exhausted. Later that day, when everyone else had left the room and the noise of the service faded, my father pressed a small envelope into my hand. His fingers were trembling. If you ever need help, he said quietly, his voice barely holding together, real help, call this number. Daniel Ross. Private investigator. He's the best there is, and he owes me a favor. A big one. Don't use it unless you absolutely have to. ID carried that card for decades. Folded once. Edges worn soft with time. It had lived in my wallet all these years, untouched, never once crossing my mind as something I'd actually need. Until that moment. Daniel Ross. I pulled into the nearest gas station and shut off the engine. My hands shook as I dug through my wallet. There it was, yellowed, creased, but still legible. Daniel Ross Discreet Investigations phone number beneath it. Nothing else. Emily, I said quietly, turning toward her. I need you to trust me. We're going to figure this out. She nodded, wiping her cheeks with her sleeve. I trust you, Grandpa. I dialed the number. It rang 3 times before a gravelly voice answered. Ross. Is this Daniel Ross? The private investigator? Depends who's asking. My name is Michael Reynolds. You knew my father, James Reynolds. He passed away 35 years ago. Before he died, he gave me your card. He said you owed him a favor. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. James Reynolds, he said slowly. Jesus. I haven't heard that name in decades. Your old man saved my life once. He exhaled. How is he? He died of cancer in 1990. Another pause. I'm sorry. He was a good man, Daniel Ross said. What do you need, Mr. Reynolds? I took a breath and told him everything. What Emily had overheard. Helen's strange behavior. The questions about insurance. The pills. My growing fear. When I finished, Daniel was silent for a moment. Where's your wife now? She's supposed to be on a flight to Kelowna for a spa retreat. Supposed to be, he repeated. Give me 20 minutes. I'll check flight records, credit cards, everything. Where are you? Richmond. Near the airport. Stay put. I'll call you back. Then he added quietly, and Mr. Reynolds, your granddaughter may have just saved your life. The wait felt endless. Emily and I sat in the car, parked beneath flickering fluorescent lights. We didn't speak. She reached across the center console and held my hand, her fingers small and warm around mine. My mind drifted backward through time. Our wedding in 1989. A small ceremony in Stanley Park, mountains behind us, the ocean nearby. Laura's birth in 1991. Helen holding our newborn daughter, crying with joy. Building our home in West Vancouver, scraping together every dollar we had for that ocean view. 35 years of shared meals, shared beds, shared plans. Had any of it been real? My phone rang. Daniel, I answered. Your wife didn't board that plane, he said immediately. She checked in and went through security, but there's no record of her boarding. Eve got someone at the airport. She exited through a service corridor about 20 minutes after you dropped her off. My stomach tightened. She's still in Vancouver, Mr. Reynolds. Where? I'm tracking her credit card now, he said. I heard typing. Here we go. She checked into the Fairmont Hotel under her maiden name, Helen Carter. Room 312. Booked 3 days ago. 5-night stay. My blood turned cold. Why would she? There's more, Daniel cut in. She wasn't alone. Security footage shows her entering the hotel with a man. Early 40s. Well dressed. They went up to the room together. He paused. And I pulled recent financials. Your wife's been withdrawing cash for about 6 months. Small amounts, nothing that would raise flags, but altogether it's around $40,000. That money went somewhere. Who's the man? I asked. I'm sending you a still from the security footage. Tell me if you recognize him. My phone buzzed. I opened the image, and the world tilted. I knew him. Dar. William Hart. My family physician. The man who had been treating me for the last 5 years. The same man who prescribed the supplements Helen insisted I take. Oh God, I whispered. That's my doctor. Your doctor. Daniel said slowly. Mr. Reynolds, you need to hear this. While we were talking, I ran his name. He lost his medical license in Ontario 6 years ago for insurance fraud. Got it reinstated in BC under questionable circumstances. He's been investigated twice for improper prescriptions, but nothing stuck. If she's working with him, my voice faltered. She's trying to kill me. The words felt unreal. She's been poisoning me. That's why I've been sick. The dizziness. The nausea. The chest pain. Very likely, Daniel said grimly. I'm calling the police right now. What you need to do is, no, I interrupted. Not yet. There was a pause. I need to see this myself. I need to know the truth. Mr. Reynolds, if they're planning your death, confronting them is extremely dangerous. I'm not confronting anyone. I just need to see. Give me 1 hour. Then call the police. A long breath. 1 hour, Daniel said. I'm tracking your phone. If anything goes wrong, I call 911 immediately. Take your granddaughter somewhere safe first. I'm taking her to her mother's hospital. I gave him the address of Vancouver General. 20 minutes later, I was hugging Emily in the hospital parking lot. Laura had rushed down, confused and frightened. I told her just enough. Her face went pale with rage. Mom's been poisoning you. She whispered. Dad, you need to go to the police now. I will, I said. I promise. But I need to see this with my own eyes. I knelt in front of Emily. You saved my life, I told her. You were brave. I'm so proud of you. She wrapped her arms around my neck. Please be careful, Grandpa. I will. I promise. And now, I stood alone in the parking lot of the Fairmont Hotel, staring up at the 3rd floor. Room 312. The sun was setting, stretching long shadows across the pavement. My heart hammered in my chest, loud enough to drown out my thoughts. What was I doing? And what did I think I was about to discover? But I couldn't walk away. I needed to know. I needed to hear it with my own ears. I entered the hotel lobby with my head lowered, moving the way people do when they're trying not to be noticed. Like they belong, even if they don't. The ride up to the 3rd floor felt endless, each second stretching longer than the last. When the elevator doors finally slid open, I stepped out into the thickly carpeted hallway and followed the numbers until I reached room 312. There were voices inside. Laughter. I pressed my ear against the door. I still can't believe how easy this has been, Helen said. Her voice sounded light, almost playful. Younger. Alive in a way I hadn't heard in years. The old fool really thinks I'm at some spa. He's probably at home right now, watering my ridiculous orchids just like I told him to. A man laughed. You married him for his money, Dr. Hart said, amused, and now you're walking away with all of it. I have to admit, Helen, it's impressive. Cold-blooded, but impressive. The life insurance alone is $800,000, Helen replied. Add the house, the savings, his pension once he's gone, we're looking at close to $2 million. Enough to start over properly. Somewhere warm. Costa Rica, maybe. And you're sure the pills will do the job? Hart asked. No trail leading back to me. She laughed softly. Darling, you're brilliant. Small doses of digoxin. Just enough to weaken his heart gradually. He's already showing signs, palpitations, fatigue, confusion. At his age, a heart attack won't surprise anyone. And if they do an autopsy? He asked. Digoxin occurs naturally in the body, she said smoothly. They'd have to test specifically for toxic levels. And why would they? 63-year-old man, sudden heart failure. Tragic, but ordinary. There was a pause. What about the granddaughter? Hart asked. The girl's staying with you. Has she noticed anything? Helen laughed again, that same hollow, chilling sound Emily had described. Emily? She's 12. Even if she noticed something, who would listen? Kids imagine things. And Eve been careful. I only give him the pills when no one's around. She lowered her voice. A week. Maybe 2. I'm increasing the dosage slowly. One night, Michael will go to sleep and simply not wake up. He'll call 911 hysterical. The grieving widow. People will comfort me, tell me how sorry they are. I felt sick. Then I sell the house, she continued calmly. Take the money. And you and I disappear. A clean start. Finally free. I couldn't listen anymore. I staggered away from the door, my vision blurring. My wife of 35 years, had been slowly poisoning me. Planning my death for money. With my own doctor. The man I trusted with my health. Somehow, I made it back to the elevator. My legs barely held me upright. In the lobby, I collapsed into a chair, shaking. I called Daniel Ross with trembling hands. I heard everything, I said when he answered. She's planning to kill me. Her and Dr. Hart. They're using digoxin. Are you safe right now? Daniel asked sharply. I'm in the hotel lobby. They don't know I'm here. Good. Stay put. I'm calling the police now, and I'm on my way. Do not go back up there. Just wait. The next hour passed in fragments. Police arrived. Plainclothes detectives with serious expressions who listened without interrupting. Daniel Ross showed up too, a short, solid man in his 70s, sharp-eyed and efficient. He had recordings. Somehow, while I'd been driving back and forth, had secured a warrant and bugged the hotel room. Everything Helen and Hart said was captured. We have enough for arrest warrants, Detective Allison Brooks told me. She was tall, calm, with kind but steady eyes. But we'd like to make the case airtight. Would you be willing to cooperate in a sting? What would I need to do? I asked. Go home. Act normal. Take the pills your wife gives you, but don't swallow them. We'll have officers watching the house. We want to catch her administering the poison on camera. The idea made my stomach turn. Going back. Sleeping beside someone who wanted me dead. Then I thought of Emily. How she'd found the courage to speak up. I'll do it, I said. They set everything up like a film production. Hidden cameras in the bedroom, kitchen, living room. A panic button disguised as a watch. Unmarked police cars outside. Daniel monitoring everything from a van down the street. Helen came home Thursday, 3 days after she was supposedly supposed to be in Kelowna. ID texted her earlier, claiming I'd fallen and hurt my hip. She rushed in, all concern and urgency. Oh, Michael, she said, helping me onto the couch. You poor thing. Her touch made my skin crawl. Let me get your medication, she said sweetly. You probably forgot it while I was gone. She returned with a glass of water and 3 pills. Just your usual vitamins, she said. I pretended to swallow them, hiding them beneath my tongue. When she turned away, I spat them into a tissue. The police collected them later. Lab tests confirmed lethal levels of digoxin. For 2 days, I played my role. I grew weaker. Confused. Exactly as expected. Helen became attentive, affectionate. She increased the pills to 3 times a day, just as she'd promised Hart. On Saturday night, she cooked my favorite meal. Pot roast. Mashed potatoes. Roasted vegetables. Apple pie. She even opened an expensive bottle of wine. What's the occasion? I asked, though I already knew. She smiled, the smile I used to love. Do we need a reason? She said softly. I just wanted to do something nice for you, darling. You seem so tired lately. We finished dinner in near silence. She refilled my wine glass more than once. After dessert, she handed me my pills again, watching closely as I pretended to swallow them. I could see it in her eyes, the calculation. The quiet impatience. How much longer would it take? When would I finally stop breathing? That night, I lay in bed beside her, staring at the ceiling while my heart raced. She believed I was asleep. I listened to her breathing, felt the familiar warmth of her body next to mine. How many nights had we spent like this? How many mornings had I woken up to her face, trusting her completely? All that time, she'd been planning my death. Sometime around 2 in the morning, she slipped out of bed. I heard her footsteps moving downstairs, then the low murmur of her voice. The hidden microphones caught every word. "It's almost finished," she whispered into the phone. "Another day or two, at most. He's so weak now. Barely gets out of bed." She paused. "I'm doubling the dose tonight. By morning, he could already be gone. And if he isn't?" "Dar." Hart asked quietly. "Then I'll give him more tomorrow," she replied calmly. "Don't worry, darling. By Monday, he'll be a widow, and well be rich." Then she laughed. That same cold, empty laugh. At dawn, the police arrived. I was sitting at the kitchen table when there was a knock at the door. Helen answered in her bathrobe, her expression groggy and confused. "Helen Reynolds?" Detective Allison Brooks asked. "Yes," she said. "What's going on?" "You're under arrest for attempted murder and conspiracy to commit fraud. You have the right to remain silent." The moment Helen saw me standing there, alive, steady on my feet, the color drained from her face. Shock flickered into rage, then hardened into pure hatred. "You," she hissed. "You knew." Then she saw Emily. Laura had brought her over. Emily stood beside me, holding my hand. Helen's face went white. "That little brat heard me," she snapped. "She heard me on the phone." "Don't you ever call her that," I said quietly. "She saved my life," I continued. "She's braver, and better, than you'll ever be." Dar. Hart was arrested at his home less than an hour later. The evidence was overwhelming. Audio recordings. The pills. Financial records showing the money Helen had paid him. Emails discussing my insurance policy, my will, dosage schedules. Proof they'd been planning my death for more than a year. The trial lasted 3 weeks. They both claimed innocence at first, but there was nowhere to hide. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Helen was sentenced to life in prison, with no possibility of parole for 40 years. At 60, that was effectively a life sentence. Dar. Hart received 35 years. His medical license was permanently revoked. As Helen was led out of the courtroom, she looked back at me one last time. There was no regret in her eyes. No remorse. Only anger that she'd failed. That was 8 months ago. I'm sitting in my kitchen now, the same kitchen where she used to make coffee, where she once kissed me goodbye every morning. The house is quieter these days. Emptier. Eve thought about selling it. Starting over somewhere else. But there are too many good memories here from before everything broke. Laura and Emily visit often. Emily's in therapy, working through everything she went through. She's doing remarkably well. She's 13 now, somehow even more observant than before. "Grandpa," she asked me last week, "what if I hadn't told you? What if I'd been too scared?" I hugged her tightly. "But you did tell me," I said. "That's what matters. You trusted yourself. You spoke up even when you weren't sure I'd believe you. You saved my life," I told her. "Never forget that." She thought for a moment. "Will you ever get married again?" she asked. I laughed softly. "No, sweetheart. I think I'm done with romance." Then I smiled. "And that's okay. Eve got you and your mom. That's more than enough." Eve learned a lot these past months. Eve learned you can live with someone for decades and never truly know who they are. Eve learned that evil doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it wears a familiar face and sleeps beside you at night. Eve learned that children often see danger more clearly than adults, because they haven't learned yet to silence their instincts. And most importantly, I've learned this. When a child tells you they're scared, believe them. They're not being dramatic. They're not looking for attention. They're trying to protect you. And sometimes, if you're very lucky like I was, they succeed. Helen was willing to kill me for money. Roughly $2 million. She was ready to murder the man she'd promised to love for 35 years. The irony? If she had asked for a divorce, I would have given it to her. I would have divided everything with her fairly. She never needed to kill me. But greed convinced her that death was simpler than divorce. Now she has nothing. No money. No freedom. No future beyond concrete walls and steel bars. Hart lost everything too, his career, his reputation, his freedom. His entire life dismantled. And for what? A plan that was doomed the moment a 12-year-old girl chose courage over fear. I still have nightmares. Some nights, I dream that I really did swallow those pills. That my heart finally gave out in my sleep. That MLS warning came just a little too late. I wake up drenched in sweat, my heart pounding, and I have to remind myself that I'm alive. That I'm safe. That it's over. And then my thoughts turn darker. I think about all the people who aren't so lucky. All the spouses who don't have an Emily in the back seat. All the victims who don't have a Daniel Ross to call. All the people who trust the wrong person, and never wake up to understand their mistake. That's why I'm telling you this now. Wherever you are. Whatever time it is. If someone you love starts acting differently, trust your instincts. If fear creeps into your own home, don't explain it away. And if a child warns you that something is wrong, listen. Really listen. Because sometimes the person sleeping beside you is quietly planning your funeral. Sometimes the person who promised to love you in sickness and in health is the one making you sick. And sometimes, the only thing standing between you and death is a child's whispered warning from the back seat of a car. When I look at Emily now, I don't just see my granddaughter. I see a hero. She's 13. She worries about school, friends, and all the ordinary things kids her age should worry about. But when it mattered most, she found the courage to speak. She didn't let fear silence her. We should all strive to be more like Emily. Listen to your children. Trust your inner voice. And when something feels wrong, don't wait until it's too late to find out why. Because Helen was right about one thing. It is easy. It's terrifyingly easy for someone to decide you're worth more dead than alive. The only things that stop that are awareness, vigilance, and the courage to speak up when something isn't right. Emily had that courage. She saved my life. And every single day, I thank God that she did. So I'll leave you with this. Where are you watching from? What time is it where you are? Have you ever had that quiet feeling that something was wrong, even when everyone else said it was fine? Have you ever stood at the edge of a moment where you had to choose between staying silent and speaking up? I hope you never have to face that choice. But if you do, I hope you remember Emily. Because sometimes the smallest voice carries the most important message. And sometimes, your life depends on having the courage to listen.